I built $1 million company using my wife's father's Wi-Fi. Let that sink in. I was living in my damn car, parked 3 houses down from my in-laws' mansion, booted out like garbage by the very man who once toasted to family above all. My so-called wife, Madison, stood next to him as he slammed the door in my face, arms folded, eyes cold, like I was the delivery guy who forgot the dipping sauce. Good luck surviving without us, he spat, sipping his $1,000 bourbon like he was in a movie. Madison didn't even flinch. No goodbye. No hesitation. Just a shrug and, you have potential. But potential doesn't pay bills. That was a year ago. Tonight, I walked into a polished glass office on the 42nd floor. Their company, Darlington Solutions, was circling the drain. Desperate for funding, they'd scheduled a meeting with an anonymous tech investor. That's me. They didn't know. He didn't know. She sure as hell didn't know. The moment I stepped into that boardroom, Madison's mouth dropped. Her father, George Darlington, turned pale like he'd seen a ghost. And me? I just smiled and said, "Heard you need help surviving. But you want the whole story? Buckle up." It started with a red lace bra. Not just any bra, Victoria's Secret, fire engine red, laced on the edges, a size too small for Madison. I found it under the passenger seat of her Range Rover. At first, I wanted to believe she bought it for me. But we hadn't been close in weeks, months, maybe. Every time I tried to touch her, she recoiled like my hands were cold steel. Every night, she scrolled endlessly through her phone in bed, screen turned away, laughter forced. I chalked it up to stress. I was still building my app, sleepless, barely showering. I thought maybe she resented the hustle, the late nights, the fact that I hadn't made it. Yet, we fought. A lot. About money. My future. Her image. She used to be proud of me back when I was the guy with ideas and ambition. But ambition doesn't look good at dinner parties when you're wearing the same shoes for 2 years. Then came the gym. Madison never liked sweating. Suddenly, she had a personal trainer named Chase. And every evening, she was working on herself. She came home with makeup still perfect and perfume still strong, like she was going to the club, not leaving one. She stopped kissing me goodbye. Then she stopped saying goodbye at all. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in denial. I didn't want to believe my wife, the woman I proposed to in Paris, who cried when I made her eggs the morning after, was turning into someone I didn't even know. So, I started paying attention. Phone face down. New lingerie tags in the trash. Dinner plans that always ran late. Dry cleaning receipts from hotels we never stayed at. The final straw? It was a Tuesday. I came home early from a failed pitch meeting, smelling like cold coffee and disappointment. Her car was gone, of course. But her iPad, forgotten on the kitchen counter, was still synced to her phone. Curiosity didn't just kill the cat. It burned my *****ing soul alive. Messages. Hundreds of them. Between her and someone saved as Coach. Coach, last night was wild. Still tasting you. Madison, you're addictive. I don't even feel guilty anymore. Coach, when are you going to leave him? Madison, soon. He's too busy chasing fairy tales. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just sat on the cold marble floor and stared at the device in my hand like it was poison. The woman I sacrificed everything for, who knew my darkest dreams and still said yes, was cheating on me. Not once. Not a mistake. A full-on betrayal. Bold. Proud. Laughing behind my back. And the worst part? She was right. I was chasing fairy tales. But fairy tales sometimes come true, especially when rage becomes fuel. That night, I loaded my laptop into the trunk of my Camry, parked it right outside her father's estate, and connected to his Wi-Fi. Darlington_guest. No password. Thanks, George. I coded until my fingers bled. Slept 3 hours a night. Lived on gas station coffee and protein bars. By the time Christmas lights went up on their mansion, I had a working prototype. By spring, I had my first client. By summer, I had investors. And by winter, I had $1 million valuation. While she was on private jets with Coach, I was closing 6-figure deals from my *****ing Honda. And now? Now, I was back. With an offer they couldn't refuse. With power they didn't see coming. But this wasn't about business. This was personal. Madison couldn't hide it. Her mouth parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. She looked like she saw a ghost, or worse, her past. George stood up too quickly, knocking over his glass of scotch. The room was thick with silence, the kind that makes people sweat even in air conditioning. I didn't even sit down right away. I let the moment stretch, Let them feel every second of the power shift. Still using the same Wi-Fi name, I said casually, sliding into the chair at the head of the table. No password either. Not very secure, George. He blinked hard. You're the investor? I looked at him, then at Madison. I'm the reason you're even having this meeting. Your company's bleeding out, and you need a miracle. Guess who just walked in? She tried to regain control, flipping her perfect blonde hair and giving me that rehearsed smile, the same one she used on magazine photographers. Logan, don't make this personal. I chuckled. Personal? Madison, you lied to me for months. Screwed some gym rat in hotels I probably paid for. And now you want to talk business? George interrupted. This isn't the place for... Shut up, I said, calmly but sharp enough to cut steel. You kicked me out of your house. Said I was a loser. But you know what you forgot to change when I left? The Wi-Fi password. I built my company parked right outside your driveway. And now, I'm your only hope. Madison's face twisted. You don't know what it's like to be married to someone with no drive, no money, Al. I slammed a folder on the table. It was thick pages of her messages to Coach, screenshots, location history, even a few invoices she never thought I'd find. I had no money because I was building something real. You? You were too busy playing trophy wife and sneaking around behind my back. She tried to speak again, but I cut her off. No, don't say a word. I spent months thinking I was the problem, working my ass off in silence while you moaned for someone else in the same city I was starving in. Her jaw tightened. Her voice was cold, bitter. So, what now? You're rich and want revenge. I leaned forward, smiling. No, Madison. I'm already past that. I gestured to the room, this is me showing you who the real failure is. George spoke again, his voice almost pleading. We need this investment. I'll admit, I misjudged you. But that's business. Don't punish the company. I turned slowly toward him. You humiliated me. Told me I wasn't worth the air I was breathing. Your daughter treated me like a stray dog. And now, you want grace. He didn't respond. I let the silence sting. Then I stood up. I'm not investing. I just came to deliver the no in person. The room spun with panic. George stammered. Madison stood up like she was going to chase me. Wait. Logan, please, can we talk? Alone. Her voice was suddenly soft, fake sweet, the same one she used when she wanted something. I stared at her. You lost the right to talk to me the day you called me just a dreamer and unzipped your dress for another man. She crossed her arms, face hardening again. You'll regret this. I smiled. I used to think losing you would destroy me. Turns out, it saved my life. I walked out without another word. They didn't follow. Probably too stunned to process it. As the elevator doors closed, I felt something strange. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Just peace. For the first time in a year, I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. She had burned me down to the bones. But I built something from the ashes. She had her games, her lies, her little fake world. And I had reality. And reality just made me a millionaire. I drove away that night without looking back. But that wasn't the end. Because Madison? She doesn't lose quietly. And neither do I. 2 days later, she showed up at my condo. How she got the address, I didn't ask. Madison always had a way of getting things she wanted, except this time. She didn't realize I wasn't one of those things anymore. She looked different. No makeup, hoodie instead of heels. It almost worked. Almost made me remember the girl I fell for years ago. The girl who used to steal my hoodies and tell me I'd change the world. But I wasn't stupid anymore. You've been ignoring my messages, she said, stepping into the hallway like she owned it. I saw what I needed to see. I made mistakes, Logan. I know I hurt you. You broke me. There's a difference. She flinched like I slapped her. I wasn't happy. You think I was? You think sleeping in my car, stealing Wi-Fi like a criminal, chasing a dream with no safety net was fun? I wasn't happy either, Madison. But I was loyal. She looked away. I should have been stronger, she said quietly. No. You should have been honest. You should have left me before you started letting someone else feel you up in elevators. Silence. Then the tears started. The crocodile kind. She was always good at those. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. It just Chase listened. You were always working. I laughed, bitter and loud. You slept with your trainer because I was too focused on building us a future? Do you hear yourself? She walked past me into the living room, brushing against my arm like the old days. She looked around. Big windows. City view. Custom desk. Success in every corner. You did all this? She asked. Every inch. With my father's Wi-Fi. Poetic, isn't it? She turned, her voice softer. Can we try again? I stared at her for a long time. Then I walked to my desk and pulled out a file. Same one I dropped on her father's table. I tossed it at her feet. Read it. Every page. And then tell me if you think there's still in us. She didn't pick it up. Is this punishment? She asked. No. This is clarity. I'm not mad anymore. I just don't respect you. Her face changed. The mask slipped. Sweet turned sour. I supported you for years, she snapped. Put up with your mood swings, your late nights, your obsession with some stupid app. You cheated on me. Don't rewrite the story to make yourself the victim. You're acting like you're perfect. I'm not. But I didn't lie. I didn't betray. I didn't say I do and then do someone else. She threw the file across the room. You'll never find someone like me again. That's the point. She stood there for a second, seething. Then she smirked. I've got nothing to lose, Logan. And if I go down, I'll take everything with me, including your company. I walked to the door, opened it wide. Try it. I dare you. She hesitated. Then she left. The door closed behind her, and I stood there, heartbeat finally calm. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel rage. I felt like a man who just pulled the last knife out of his back and finally stood up straight. But the story wasn't over yet. Because Chase? He had no idea I knew about him. Yet, a week passed. Quiet. Too quiet. I knew Madison. She was the type to burn the house down just because she wasn't welcome inside anymore. The type who smiled while twisting the knife. So when I got the call from my lawyer, I was already halfway expecting it. She's threatening to sue for a share of the company, he said. Claiming spousal contribution, emotional support, co-founder ideas, even branding input. Branding input? She once said the logo looked too blue. That's it. She's not interested in truth. She's interested in leverage. I laughed. The kind of laugh that sounds more like a cough of disbelief. She helped bury me and now wants to claim she planted seeds. She's trying to get in before your Series B closes. Public record will make it harder later. I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled. Let her try. I documented everything. Dates, bank records, text receipts. The company was registered after she left me. She's got nothing. Still, keep your head down. Women like this. She's not a woman. She's a storm pretending to be a forecast. That night, I went through the evidence again. Her text with Chase. The receipts. The apartment lease in her name signed 2 weeks before she told me we needed space. She'd been planning her exit before I ever knew there was a cliff. And Chase? Coach. Tattooed. Steroid bulked. About as smart as a toaster. But that's who she chose over me. And now he was living in my shadow, in the glow of a woman who used people like tissues. Wipe, fold, toss. I decided it was time he heard from me. He worked at a boutique gym downtown, Vital Grind. I booked a private training session under a fake name. Walked in wearing sunglasses and a hoodie. He didn't recognize me. We shook hands. His grip was too hard. Insecure men always squeeze too tight. I waited until we were halfway through the warm-up before I said, "So, Madison still moans your name when she lies?" His entire body froze. "What did you just say?" I pulled off the sunglasses. "Hi, Chase." He took a step back. "Logan, you didn't think I knew? That every night you sneaked around with my wife, I was just out here clueless, coding in my car." His face flushed. "Look, man, she said you two were done." "That you?" "She said a lot of things. She always does. That's her trick." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "She used you, Chase. Same way she used me. You think you're special? I was her husband, and she tossed me like old leftovers. You're just the rebound with a gym membership." "She loves me," he said, but the crack in his voice was already there. "No. She loves power. Control. The moment you stop worshiping her, you're next." He didn't respond. I took a deep breath. "You can keep her. I'm not here to fight over trash. I just wanted you to see the mold before it spreads." I walked out without waiting for his answer. Back in my car, I sat in silence. It wasn't closure. It was confirmation. They deserved each other. Rot attracts rot. But the worst part? Somewhere, deep down, I still missed her. Not who she became, but who I thought she was. And that was the most dangerous lie of all. A few nights later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Blocked ID. Late. Almost 2 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. But curiosity is a vicious little thing, and I couldn't help myself. I hit play. Her voice. Shaky. Breathless. "Logan." I know you hate me. I know I destroyed everything. But something's happening. I think someone's following me. I saw Chase's car parked outside my building tonight, but he didn't answer when I called. I think he's been off lately. If anything happens to me, I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. Click. I stared at the screen, half expecting it to ring again. It didn't. I should have gone back to sleep. I should have deleted the message and left her to whatever disaster she'd invited into her life. But I didn't. Instead, I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and drove. Her building was in the arts district, pretentious, overpriced, mostly influencers and trust fund babies. But it had private parking, and sure enough, a blacked-out Dodge Charger sat at the edge of the lot. I walked up and peeked inside. Empty. But the engine was still warm. I felt that familiar tightening in my chest. The one that says you're about to make a mistake, but do it anyway. The building's main door was unlocked, probably from some food delivery guy being too lazy to close it behind him. Her unit was on the 6th floor. I took the stairs. The hallway was dead quiet. I knocked once. No answer. Then I heard it. A muffled crash. Then something heavy, like furniture scraping. I didn't think. I just kicked the door open. And what I saw, Madison was backed into a corner, face bruised, lip bleeding. Chase was standing over her, shirtless, breathing heavy, holding a broken bottle in one hand. He looked at me like he didn't recognize reality anymore. You shouldn't be here, he muttered, voice low, almost childlike. I stepped in. Calm. Steady. Like my heart wasn't punching through my ribs. Put the bottle down, Chase. She lied to me. She said she left you. That you didn't matter. But she's been calling you. Crying to you. Madison was silent. Her mascara smeared, arms trembling. I gave her everything, he said. And now she's scared of me? Because you're standing over her with a weapon, I said. He looked at the bottle, as if noticing it for the first time. Then, slowly, he dropped it. It shattered against the hardwood. I walked past him, pulled Madison up by the elbow, and led her to the door. She tried to speak. Don't, I said. Not a word. We left him there, standing in the mess, breathing like a man who just realized he was the villain in his own story. Outside, in the parking lot, she turned to me. I didn't know who else to call. You think that means something? I was scared. You weren't scared when you were on your knees in a hotel suite while I starved in a Honda. She winced. I looked at her like she was a stranger again. You're not a victim, Madison. You chose him. You fed him lies, same way you fed me. You built this disaster, and now it's falling on your head. She wiped her face, voice cracking. Do you still love me? I didn't answer. I just got in my car and drove off. The truth is, I didn't know. All I knew was I couldn't go back. Not now. Not ever. A few days passed. I didn't hear from her. No calls. No texts. Not even a whisper through the grapevine. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Some dramatic plea, some performance. But nothing came. Until it did. I was in the middle of a pitch meeting. Investors. Suits. A polished boardroom 20 stories above the noise. My assistant rushed in, pale and shaken. There's a woman in reception. Says she's your wife. She's making a scene. I didn't even blink. Ex-wife. I tried to get her to leave, but she threatened to, quote, ruin this little Silicon Valley cosplay show unless she saw you. I excused myself. Walked out like I had control, but my blood was already boiling. She was there. Madison. Wearing designer like it was armor, sunglasses indoors like she was hiding the truth behind them. And standing next to her? George. Her father. The same man who kicked me out like trash, who told me I'd never be anything. Now red-faced, fidgety, desperate. Logan, he said before I even reached them. Please. We didn't mean to. This wasn't her idea. I looked at Madison. She was quiet. Too quiet. I turned to George. You came to my office. In person. He tried to smile. I wanted to apologize. For before. And maybe talk business. I stared at him. Let the silence fill the hallway. Then I looked at her. This your way back in? I asked. Daddy's failing again. So you thought you'd use the one card you had left? She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. Puffy. I'm pregnant, she said. 3 seconds passed. Then I laughed. Short. Bitter. With his kid. No. Yours and Chase's? Or yours and your new sponsor? Logan. I'm telling you it's yours. You're telling me, I repeated. Like how you told me you were going to yoga while you were really with him? Her voice rose. This isn't the time for revenge. I snapped. You don't get to decide when I stop bleeding, Madison. George cleared his throat. Logan, we just... Shut up. He flinched. And I saw it, fear. The man who once stood on his front steps and told me I was worthless now stood in my office, hoping I'd save him. And her? She looked at me with tears threatening again. And I didn't feel anything. Not hate. Not anger. Just cold. You told me I was a loser, I said. Now you want my help, my forgiveness, and to raise a child you're not even sure is mine? It is yours, she whispered. I nodded. Let's say it is. Let's say, by some twisted joke from the universe, I'm about to become a father. Then I'm not going to be like you two. George tried to interrupt again. I held up my hand. I'm not going to manipulate people. I'm not going to lie and cheat and twist my way through life. If that kid is mine, I'll be there. But you? Both of you? Stay the hell out of my world. She blinked fast. But I didn't wait. I turned around, walked back into my office, closed the door, and for the first time since the betrayal, I felt clean. Not healed, not whole, but clean. 2 weeks went by. I didn't call her, didn't check in. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't trust myself. Madison had a way of pulling strings you didn't know were still attached. Her voice, her presence, even her silence had a kind of gravity that bent your judgment. But I couldn't shake the thought. What if the kid was mine? I had my assistant send over a formal request for a paternity test. Legal. Bulletproof. No emotions involved. Just science. Facts. She didn't respond at first. Then, 3 days later, a lawyer emailed back. Cold. Clinical. She'd agree on the condition that I met her for one final conversation. I stared at the screen for a long time. My instincts screamed no. But something deeper, something primal, whispered you need to see this through. So I said yes. We met at a park downtown. Public. Neutral ground. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench under a tree. Dressed simple for once. No designer bag, no 3-inch heels. Just jeans and a sweater. And no makeup. She looked human. I sat down beside her. Not close. Not far. She spoke first. You don't have to hate me forever. I didn't look at her. I don't. I'm just done pretending I don't know who you really are. She nodded. I deserve that. You deserve worse. She didn't flinch. I agreed to the test, she said. And if he's yours? I won't stand in the way. You'll have full rights. And if he's not? Then you never have to see me again. Silence stretched between us. Wind rustled the trees. Kids played in the distance, laughter cutting through the tension like a knife. I didn't plan any of this, she said finally. Not the betrayal. Not the fallout. Not the baby. You planned the lies. She hesitated. I lied to survive. I lied because I felt powerless. I lied because it was easier than facing how much I'd hurt you. That's not an apology. No, she said. It's not. I looked at her. Really looked. There was no sparkle. No seduction. Just a tired woman sitting in the wreckage of her own choices. Do you love him? I asked. Chase. I nodded. I did. But it was stupid. It wasn't real. Just heat. Attention. Something I thought I needed to feel alive. You never needed saving, Madison. You needed someone who would let you burn without watching. Her eyes welled up. And you? Did you love me? I didn't answer right away. Then I turned toward her. I loved the version of you that never existed. Her lip trembled. We sat in silence a few minutes more. Then I stood. Let me know when the test is ready. She nodded without looking up. As I walked away, I felt no weight. No confusion. No more what-ifs. Whether or not that child was mine, this chapter of her and I was finished. The ashes were cold, and I wasn't going to warm my hands over them ever again. 3 weeks later, the envelope came. Plain. Unmarked. But heavy. The kind of heavy that isn't about weight. It's about truth. I sat at my desk, the same one I'd built this empire from. The same one I used to sleep under when I had no roof, no wife, no name people respected. And now? I had everything I once begged the universe for. Everything, except clarity. Until now. I opened the envelope. The paper was smooth. The ink sharp. Paternity test result. 0% probability of paternity. Not mine. Not even close. For a second, I just stared at it. No thoughts. No emotions. Just silence in my bones. Then, I laughed. Not bitter. Not loud. Just relief. It was over. Madison had lied all the way to the finish line. Lied with tears, with fake hope, with that damned helpless look in her eyes she'd used on everyone since high school. But she couldn't fake DNA. I stood up, walked over to the window. The city stretched before me, cold, sharp, electric. She was probably somewhere out there right now, spinning a new story for someone new. Maybe Chase. Maybe some other idiot who hadn't learned to see through her crocodile tears and bedroom promises. But I had. She couldn't touch me anymore. I'd outgrown her poison. My phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Just one line. Was hoping it was yours. I stared at it. Then I blocked the number. No response. No reaction. No need. She was the storm I'd survived. And I wasn't walking back into the rain. I sat down at my desk again, opened my laptop, and got back to work. Because that's what you do after betrayal. You rebuild. Stronger. Smarter. Colder. Maybe. But unbreakable. So if you're reading this, some guy sitting in the dark thinking she would never do that to you, wake up. Watch her eyes. Watch her phone. Watch her silences. And if you ever hear the words, "You're too focused on your dreams," know this. She already left you. She's just waiting for a better option. And when she does leave, don't chase her. Don't beg. Build. Let her watch you rise from the ground she thought she buried you under. Let her see your name on buildings. Let her name fade like a rumor. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't anger. It's becoming untouchable. And I am.